Thank you. On the work session, I be time sensitive. I would like to add number 6, opposition for Camp Grilling, and Mike, what's McNamara will be speaking. Number 1 is Veterans Year-End Report. Heath, want to turn the mic on, please? Turn the mic on. Thank you.
Oh, now next time you can tell me, push the button, smart man. Um, I was Army. Um, so if we look at this report, 2021, GDX, Roscommon has 2,668 veterans. Out of those veterans, the column next to it, that's total expenditures. That is in millions of dollars. Our veterans brought in 26,492,000 federal dollars into this county. That incorporates compensation, disability claims, pension claims, healthcare, education. That's everything. The column next to it is straight federal dollars. That's the dollars that they receive in disability. That's all monetary. They brought in $14,362,000. So as the Northeast as a whole, our population is decreasing 2 to 4% a year, where we lose tax base. How do we help recapture some of that? Well, by doing our job. We file claims for pension, disability, and healthcare. Those are monetary benefits. So that's where these numbers come through. So if we do a claim for a veteran, he's never done a claim, and he gets 100%, he's going to get $3,400 a month from the federal government that comes into this county. That's an explanation of those numbers. So how do I look at if we're doing our job? I'm kind of anal about this because I want to know that we're making a difference. So this year, the latest report, we had $26,492,000. The 2020 report, we had 2,758 veterans. Those veterans brought in $25,034 in overall expenditures, and straight monetary expenditures, $13,860,000. We lost 90 veterans compared from 20 to 21. So we decreased 90, but our dollar amount went up by $1,188,000. So that tells me the work we're doing makes a difference. The VSOs in the office are performing their job above a standard. So that's something that comes out every year, and I like to highlight that. And I take that to different veterans organizations, coffee hours, get-togethers, listen and learns. So our community knows that, hey, we support this millage, and this is their return on their investment. So to me, that's a big deal. As our areas die, we're bringing in more monies to support our local businesses. Veterans historically are not savers with this money, they're spenders. So they're out there, they're buying quads, they're going out to eat, they're supporting our local businesses. So it's a good report, and I put that out every year. The next one is our cumulative totals. So during our monthly meeting that's held the first Thursday of every month, we put out a report for the activity of the month, and it pretty much mirrors this sheet you have in front of you. And at the end of the year, we have our cumulative totals for that year. And so if you look on the far right, after December 2022, you can go down that column and you can see office visits, 1,084. Keep in mind, this is over COVID. So when were on lockdown, we were still performing claims and working from our homes, doing claims over the computers, providing emergent needs. Everything was still running as usual. We were one of the only services out there that we were still providing medical transportation to our veterans through our local RCTA. And as we go down that column, you're going to see different numbers, VA files received. You can look at those. The ones I highlight are the total veterans into the office for 2022, 1,084. And then we go down to medical transportation. So during COVID, we went outside the lines. Normally, we don't take veterans to trips to Grand Rapids, VA, Saginaw, VA. It's just not feasible to do that. But it was something that we had to do during COVID. So our transportation costs were a little high, nowhere near what we budget, but still higher than I like to look at. And you can go down and then you see burials. So burials, that's one of our statutory requirements. Public Act 135. We have to provide a $300 death burial benefit to the veteran and his spouse when they pass away. That's something we have to do. That's where the cost of burials, $7,615. We had 61 deaths in 2022. That is high. You can talk to other counties, they're like at 610. That's a big number. And then if you go down from that, we have grave markers. That's a benefit that my board put together years ago, that it's a monetary benefit, $109, to take that headstone or grave marker and place it on the grave of the veteran or spouse. So that was $2,290. And if we go down, a system that we're the only county in the state that has this, the VRSS system. So we have a VJO, it's a Veterans Justice Outreach Advocate in the Sheriff's Department. So they utilize a system that's called VRSS. The state of Indiana requires that the court side of every court in the state utilize the system. What does this do? How does it help us? So for a few years, I would be at home on a Saturday night. I'd get a call, and it's the sheriff's department saying, I have this veteran, something's wrong. They can't get their medication. We don't know what to do. And then I would have to go through and connect the dots and make sure the veteran got the medication, mailed to his house, anything like that. This gives them the opportunity to go into a VRSS system, pull up a name. That system is going to tell them that if they're a veteran, and then it's going to tell them their criminal activity throughout the nation, not just in Michigan, not in our county. So if they're out in Utah and they had a situation, so this allows the VA to track patterns. So if it's a mental health issue, maybe it's a diabetic issue, from that they can go, well, does this veteran have health care? Are they getting mental health care? They can reach out to the office with that veteran, and then we can do what we do to connect them to those benefits. So it's an amazing tool, especially when you are looking to identify mental health patterns and connecting that veteran with certain resources. Something to know for the new commissioners, if that office wasn't here, our county has 2 statutory requirements that they have to provide. Public Act 214, which rotated into Public Act 192 when we put the office into motion, and Public Act 135. Public Act 214 is an emergent need fund. Back in 1853, the state of Michigan said every county in Michigan will levy up to 1/10 a mil per tax dollars for emergent needs for veterans, spouses, and dependent children. So if there's counties out there that don't have an office, they're not millage based, they have to provide that Public Act 214. When we got our millage and we rolled over and adapted Public Act 192, that transfers the powers of Public Act 214 and the responsibilities that other parties held under 214 to my board. and we still perform the same emergent need. And understanding what emergent need is a big factor in how that money is used in different areas. To the new commissioners, if you guys have a time you want to set aside, come in and do a listen and learn as a group, I would love to do that. You'll go to MAC meetings and you're going to hear a lot of different stuff that's going out there with the state, different things. We are not grant funded whatsoever in the operation of that office. Our taxpayers support that office and everything that comes through there. And I'd love to sit down and do a education session with anyone. That's my report.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? Thank you.
Number 2, Higgins Lake Control Structure, Eagle Permit. Excuse me. Something that we've been discussing, and I just need some discussion from the commissioners if they want to go through to get a permit, see what Eagle has to say regarding that opening for the Higgins Lake Control Structure. Eric?
I believe
Your mic.
Yeah, I believe it really isn't a change to the structure at all. I think it's just we need to check with Eagle to make sure that we can do that. From what I understand, it's something we certainly should. It's more of a repair issue as opposed to a modification of the dam. It's really not modifying it because of the scouring in the bottom that I reiterated in the.
Oh, this is. I thought we were referring to that 5-foot opening to.
In the bottom, and as I mentioned in the last meeting, and I provided diagrams.
Right.
There's a lot of scouring taking place in the bottom of that wasn't or shouldn't be taking place.
Thought is Bill is not, or Bill is here. Bill, can you come up here,
Sure.
please? Turn your mic on. Thank you, sir. You went out and investigated that.
Yes.
And did you come up with something?
So there was a permit pulled through the Spicer Group. I believe I saw a permit to Eagle that at some point there was a steel decking put at the front of the mouth of the dam to stop the scouring or undermining of it, if you will. There is no concrete floor like the other bays, but there is a device in there. We put on the waders. We went out there with spuds. We were able to drill or knock down, and we could hear steel on steel all the way across the opening. So this way, there is a wall, and the permit was applied for, and I can't remember. I just got the email, didn't remember the date, to kind of stop that scouring, right, or undermining. But there is no floor. So that's about the best way I can describe it.
It needs to be repaired, I believe. From what I observed, and I mentioned the last time, maybe we should all go out and take a look at it and see, according to the Spicer diagram, there is no concrete floor or way to stop that scouring. I didn't get down in there and dig down 8-10 inches underneath the spillway, but there is a tremendous amount. Otherwise, Spicer wouldn't have reported it that way. I don't think so, but that could be years from now. There's something that needs to be done immediately. So this summer we don't run into the issues we did last summer with by the end of the summer, we were below winter level by the end of the summer last year, below the winter level. It's starting to come up a little bit now, but we certainly need to address that issue with getting that fixed. It is a problem. I think, like I said, we can all go out and take a look at it and see and take a look. Across the bottom of it, just like I had in my diagram, across the bottom of it, there's a 8 to 12 inch deep hole in that.
See, I'm not an expert at that. Oh, this, no public comment at this point. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I will tell you that, yes, there is no concrete or metal floor in there. There is a wall, a retaining type wall. My opinion, like everyone else, when that 6x6 board was put in there, it significantly increased the amount of flow over that would probably really take the undermining of that out of there. So if we had a flow coming at a certain level, we raised it up. We didn't. It was raised up. That water started going over, and that was also contributing over time to the floor of that area being undermined.
Oh, over time, over 2 days?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Grand Canyon started as a drip, right?
Well, it's wide open flowing through there. I think we need to really we should all go and take a look at it.
Spicer's report was, there was no concrete apron.
Correct,
It is different than structure.
correct. So maybe we do need to ask
On
for,
the outlet side,
on the inlet side,
scouring is on the inlet side.
yes. And if that is the case, then I think we do need to ask for, if like Bill says, if that is the case, if there's really nothing going on, then we do need to ask for a permit change to get a concrete floor on the bottom of that spillway. It's causing us to be in a position of liability by not getting those levels where they should be. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done on the dam down the road after we get going with the special assessment district and so forth. But right now, it's a constant flow, scouring the bottom of that dam, and I think we need to, it's be a pretty simple thing to ask Spicer to do that, the DEQ to do that. It's one of the reasons this county was sued in the first place back in 2019. Because the levels haven't been being maintained. We need, as commissioners, we need to be responsible and ask Eagle for a permit revision if that's what it's going to take to get that spillway in correct shape, so it doesn't continuing to be scoured.
I would like Poraf, he's done several. Would he be any good at going, Jody, and looking at this? Give us,
So in speaking with Stacy, she's suggesting that since you're already have them engineering to review all of these things anyway, that we do utilize Spicer Group to come out and take a look at that and come up with a design, et cetera.
And that would-
That's what I'd be in favor of.
That is correct.
okay,
That's what I'd be in favor of, is having Spicer make the recommendation as they did back in 2010. And ask Eagle for a modification, which we are actually required to do by law. We are required to ask for the necessary permits to get that level where it should be. And in the permit itself, they are supposed to design it so it does maintain the legal levels. And it's not doing that now.
I'll get a hold of Spicer's. Number 3, board rules, discussion of the whole. Thank you, Bill. Has everyone had a chance to review?
Yes, I have some questions on it.
Sure. We start with you, Rex.
I'm bringing something to the board, that's like last minute. Talked about removing, taking a unanimous vote to accomplish that. And we talked about removing that from the board rules, filling the board rules.
Bring something forth on the agenda. Is that what you're referring to, Rex?
I can't tell you what page.
I think it's on page 4.
Yeah, you got hard copy.
Yeah.
With your permission. Talking 5.0.
Found it, find it. 5.0, correct. On the end of it, on the end of it, it says approval process with unanimous consent of board members present.
The emails.
And we talked about removing unanimous consent.
Yeah, with you again, unanimous consent in, that's 20 years on the board, just. The normal procedures that we had, and I'm sure our chairman can validate this. We've always had a rule that if a commissioner wishes to bring something forward, they are allowed to do that in a timely manner. You can't do it at the board meeting, you can't do it after the agenda's been read and put out in the public for the work session. But if you have an issue you want to bring to the board, you have that right to do that. At least that's how we've always done it for the last few years. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean the commissioners will always acknowledge the fact that they want to discuss that issue. You bring it forward, you may not get a second. The bottom line is you have the right to do that. You're as commissioner, you have 20% of the board. So we've always allowed that. And I think it should be a rule that we continue because I think it's important for each commissioner to be able to voice their concern, not only for their constituents they serve in the district, but for the entire county.
That's why I see that part removed. One person can block something from.
Absolutely. Yeah, listen, I would be in favor of getting rid of the verbiage unanimous consent.
I agree.
Anything else?
What has to happen now that we've agreed to remove that unanimous consent portion? But what has to happen now?
Well, we got,
Are we good?
I'm sorry, what has to happen now, Dave, now that we've agreed to
we,
remove unanimous consent from that?
we just have, if we all agree to it right now, we could change it.
Is that voted for in the regular meeting or in the
No.
work session?
Work session.
Okay.
Darlene have some concerns over this.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to everybody. You're next, Darlene.
The only one that I had a concern on is 5.4 public comment. Currently, right now, nobody, when they actually have a public comment, has to state their name or anything like that. And they, according to our current rules, they would not have to do so per OMA. And do we want to add something to that effect?
I would like to see that in there where they have to state their name.
So
We've
that we
always done
know.
it, haven't we?
In my opinion, Mr. Chair, it's a bad idea. If somebody wants to remain anonymous, but they have a point they want to bring, I'm in favor of allowing that individual to be able to voice their concern without. I think it adds transparency because somebody may feel uncomfortable about acknowledging who they are. But I think they should have a right to be able to bring it, as long as they bring it in accordance with the normal OMA, transparency, good actions of the board. I think a person should be able to have that right.
It's like 99% of the time when they come up, state their name.
Again, you're talking 99, I think out of the 20 years I've been here, I think maybe one time in 20 years, somebody didn't feel comfortable about giving their name, and we were fine with that. I think it's, let the public speak if they feel so inclined, and let's not keep any holes on the bar holes on the public from speaking.
I would like to add that the Michigan Association of Counties, the way that they put it is, we can ask, make an announcement ahead of time. We ask them if they could please announce their name, but they are not required to.
You can't demand a person to give their name if they don't.
Correct.
Or what they do is they'll just give a false name. We don't want that.
No.
Let's be as transparent and open as we possibly can. We're always in favor of that.
Mark is exactly right.
Do you have anything else,
No.
Darlene?
I
Mark?
just was asking, inquiring about that.
That's all.
Chairman, thank you.
Eric?
That's
Okay.
comments.
Committee list. Everyone has a new copy of the committee list.
Objection?
Yes.
Yes, according to the legal opinion that I received last night from my attorney, and I think we need to further check into this. At this point in time, Jody Valentino is only the proposed delegated authority because we have to have Crawford County agree to make her the delegated authority. So at this point in time, I think we need to leave Higgins Lake open because there's no problem with Lake St. Helen or Roscommon or
But in the meantime, Eric, somebody has to look at them numbers and report back to me. And I'm comfortable leaving Jody's name on it for right now, the county controller.
okay, that's fine. She's not the delegated authority yet.
Right, okay. Any other questions on the committee list? This is what we're gonna be running with for 2023. Everyone received the county dictionary, or your phone list guide. Okay, number 6. Camp Grilling opposition, Mike, and make sure you turn your mic on, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for putting us on your agenda. My name is Jim Knight. I'm from Bear Lake Township in Kalkaska County. I'm currently the trustee on the township board. First, let me just say this, that you're going to hear the opposition. So I'm going to make this short because there's other people who'd like to speak too. All of us that are opposing this Camp Grayling expansion proposal, we are not anti-military. In fact, there are several in the military, and one is here today that's going to speak. We are opposed to the proposal of 162,000 acres of this public land where all the watersheds are in from the Manistee, Ausable, and Muskegon River systems that are in definite jeopardy for any expanding of military being in the area. I passed out the information that you have. You can clearly see by the red on the map and check the legend. You can clearly see the opposition has grown significantly, especially in the last month. People are finding out that some of the things that are being told, at least that's what we've been told, is not quite accurate. And so they've decided to write resolutions. And that's what we're here today to ask the board here to consider a resolution of opposition. I believe there are 8 townships and I believe your road commission has signed on in opposition to this. You can clearly see where I believe the townships stand in Roscommon County. So as elected officials, as I am, I've always taken the position that we have to do what's good for our townships and our county and for our constituents. And clearly what we can see wherever we go, that the constituents are not buying into this plan, that they see that this is detrimental to the lifestyle and what we're used to here in Northern Michigan. So with that said, please, if you would, put that on your agenda and if you would consider adopting a resolution of opposition. Thank you.
Congratulations to the 3 new faces in your successful campaigns. My name is Mike McNamara. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from Camp Grayling. I was born and raised in Grayling. A lot of you have sat through a number of my appeals to the board. For the 3 new faces, I know Eric sat in the back with me at the last one. This expansion is not about Camp Grayling training soldiers. It's not about the soldiers. We are 100% behind our soldiers. And if I thought, as a retired lieutenant colonel and the deputy commander at Camp Grayling, if I thought for 1 minute this would save one soldier's life, be 100% behind it. It's not that. It's about for-profit companies coming to Camp Grayling, renting land for $150 a day, 3,000 acres, quoted in the D Business magazine, disgustingly inexpensive rates. It's about limiting access to state lands. If you try to get from Roscommon, St. Helen, Houghton Lake, through Crawford County, to Gaylord, Otsego County, can't do it on a side-by-side or four-wheeler. Can't do it legally. You can actually get there, but it's illegal to do it. There's so many red placards up and down the ORV trails, or what I call ORV trails, and that were on the map as ORV trails, but now they're blocked. Not physically, but by signage. This is not a DOD initiative. This is two state employees, the Adjutant General and the Post Commander. This is their initiative to try to build and call Camp Grayling something that it's not. They're calling it the National All-Domain Warfare Center. But if you look on any military documents called MTONEs, Modified Table of Equipment and Organization of Equipment, it still says Joint Maneuver Training Center. Actually, it says Maneuver Training Center, Camp Grayling. It's not NADWIC. That's a state-branded program, not recognized by the Army, at least not as of yet. This is about, in my opinion, about self-promotion and self-interest. There are very, very, very few residents, taxpayers, and recreational users that I've talked to thousands of people. They're not in favor of it. There's a very few small folks that may or may not be in favor of it, but they definitely have some financial gains. I could go in those in detail, but I won't do that in a public meeting. This decision isn't about building a relationship between the community and Camp Grayling. That decision should be on Camp Grayling's back, and it always has been in the past. The last decade, it's kind of wavered a little bit from that. Efforts to clean up the PFAS contamination in our well waters and our groundwater has been kicked down the road. The can has been kicked down the road for the last six and a half years. As you guys might remember, the ones that were here, I've lost two great house dog bird dogs due to kidney failure. I live right behind the Grayling Army Airfield. Didn't even know my water was contaminated. Wasn't a known fact until about 9-10 months after the guard found out. Then they announced that my dogs had died in the meantime. If efforts were to clean up the contamination, the razor wire, the garbage, the thousands of flashlight batteries up and down the trail roads that you find every summer after Northern Strike, if those small things were taken care of, on top of the big thing of the well water contamination, if those things were taken care of, rather than sneakily trying to steal 163,000 acres, 253 square miles of additional state lands on top of the 230 square miles they have right now. If the efforts were to bend towards cleaning up the PFAS contamination, we'd be sure a lot better off. I, for example, had to put in a $5,000 whole house system just to clean up my water so me and the dogs can drink and bathe in it. We only had 30 days originally. We only had 30 days to make public comments about the land grab. And now that's been extended for another indefinitely. They had 6 years to work on our PFAS cleanup, and they've made no progress, no results, no progress whatsoever. Lake Margrethe has 400-600 parts per trillion coming out of several different creeks off of Camp Grayling Cantonment area, off the camp base into the lake, flowing down Portage Creek, eventually getting into the Manistee River. Again, nothing was done, has been done yet to stop that from entering the lake. The lack of straightforward answers, the lack of transparency, and the ever-changing story that comes out of Camp Grayling representative at these public meetings has, from day one in June till today, has changed tremendously. And there are 8 videos made by a young lady out of Levels named Martha Doobie. If you go to YouTube, if you go to Google, type in Martha Doobie Camp Grayling, you'll find not only 8 videos that she's documented what each of the different zones are going to happen and the contradictions. One video is just labeled contradictions. From day one till day now, the story has changed 100%. And there's complete different stories at each meeting. The lack of credibility, lack of unverifiable wants for this land. There's no Army doctrine. There's no DOD doctrine. There's no FM field manual. There's no technical manual that tells why they need this land. It's one or two people's opinion that they need it. And again, I believe, and it's supported by many, many, many retirees from the Michigan National Guard and Camp Grayling employees, that this is just for the additional contractors that are coming in wanting to use Camp Grayling. That business article I referred to earlier talks about their phone has been ringing off the hook to utilize the abundance of land that they currently have. The abundance of land that they currently have for contractor use. So, can't understand why they would need another 253 square miles. And it's never been proven. There's no documents. There's just one guy who's out there telling everybody that's what he wants. There's been a lot of shameful tactics used at these public meetings. We have it all on video of statements made to embarrass the public, to support this want of excess land. I would like to stress that this is all of our lands. This is all of our public land. The public has spoke out, as you can see by your maps. The public has spoke out in the northern Michigan area, all the way from the north end of Otsego County, all the way down to the southern end of Roscommon County, in the Missaukee and Kalkaska, all throughout Missaukee and Kalkaska County. And actually, we just got another resolution this morning from another township. Yep, I'm asking for a resolution, sir, and I'll be followed by Monty Bolus from Frederick, Michigan, and he'll have a few brief comments as well.
Chairman Russo, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow residents of Northern Michigan, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I really appreciate it. My name is Monty Bolus, and I am a founding member of a group of about 6,700 local residents who, the name of our group is Oppose Camp Grayling Expansion. I want to say that we strongly support our military, but we also strongly oppose the proposed expansion. There's so many things I could talk about today that would take an hour of your time, and I just would like to hit on 2 points. The proposed expansion of Camp Grayling is either needed or it's not. We know that it's not needed, and I want to give you an example why. Camp Grayling is one of, in the contiguous 40 states, one of 48 National Guard training centers. It is overwhelmingly the largest National Guard training center in America. And when I say overwhelmingly, it's important that you understand in most cases, it's tens of thousands of acres larger than other training facilities in other states. In many cases, it's 100,000 acres or more larger. We know that Camp Grayling can adequately prepare our troops, because we also want well-prepared troops on the 148,000 acres that it has. We know this because all other National Guard units in all other states achieve the same superior level of training and combat preparedness, and they all do it on a fraction of the amount of land currently available to Camp Grayling. I want to give you a very concrete example of that. According to Camp Grayling's own website, in a typical year, they train between 10 and 15,000 soldiers on 148,000 acres. There's a National Guard unit in central Pennsylvania called Fort Indiantown Gap. that for 5 of the last 7 years has been named by the National Guard at the national level, the busiest, most productive National Guard unit in America. In a typical year, they train 113,000 soldiers on 18,000 acres, on only 18,000 acres. So we believe, as Mike had said, Camp Grayling has other motives for this proposed expansion. According to D-Business Magazine, according to the 70-page strategic plan for Camp Grayling, according to an article in the Petoskey News written by the former Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard, Gregory Van Days, we know that this land is going to be used to subcontract out to private industry for the purpose of testing and developing unproven records with no safety histories, and which leads me into my last point. It is not my opinion, it is a professional opinion. Perhaps you've seen the article in the papers recently. It was out 2 weeks ago. A gentleman by the name of Randall Roth, who is the district supervisor for this area, and who is charged specifically with keeping track of Camp Grayling's effort to deal with the PFAS that's in our water system. According to this district supervisor, who works for, it's called EGLE now, the Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy. It was formerly the DEQ. According to the district supervisor, in a letter to Camp Grayling is still to this day spilling stormwater into Lake Marguerite and by extension, the Asabo River, the Manistee River, the Muskegon River, and our drinking water at unacceptable, and this stormwater has unacceptably high levels of PFAS in it. Randall Roth did something exceptional as an employee of one of the state's 3 environmental agencies. He wrote a letter to the DNR, and in his professional opinion, what he recommended to the DNR is until Camp Grayling adequately addresses its current PFAS contamination issue, he recommended to the director of the DNR that her name is Shannon Lott, reject the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling. So it is not just my personal opinion, it is a matter on record of somebody who works for the Department of Eagle's professional opinion that Camp Grayling should not be granted this additional land. Talked way too long. I want to encourage you to consider, please, doing what over 35 other combined townships, counties, and road commissions have done. And that is to vote on and draft a resolution opposing the proposed expansion, not on your own behalf, but also on behalf of your citizens. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank both of you for your service.
I could just make one comment. My name is Neil Wallace. I'm from South Branch Township. I've been working with these folks, and I think they've done a great job of explaining to you in substance why you should pass a resolution in opposition to this proposed expansion. I wanted to just tell you why you should do it now. This map that you're looking at and the list that goes with it and other information has been presented now in Lansing. It caused us, this part of our state, to have the attention of the authorities in Lansing, the people who will be making this decision. And the response that I've had back is that these people are moving the needle. This process, this opposition is moving the needle. We could have, however, a decision at any time. When I saw the first presentation on this on May 31st, Camp Grayling was asked at that time, when do you want a decision on this? And the response was by early fall of 22. We still don't have a decision, but it could come today, it could come tomorrow. So it is important that you stand with the rest of the community and today pass a resolution like this.
Thank you. And before you leave, let's go with myself and Jody.
What's that?
We don't need to, that resolution.
Well, they gave me like 800.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. Oh, they're.
we're good.
We've got a draft,
Right.
here.
I didn't know you
We're sitting
you
on it.
provided Jody with that information.
Really like you to, if you can, is to get this passed today for us.
It's
Three of you for your service. I certainly support such a resolution.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question.
Yep. Well,
And I thank you, Colonel, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Um, It's non-DOD approved? That was the biggest statement I heard today.
I don't know if that's the biggest statement.
It is for me.
that
Oh, I
made,
didn't.
maybe to you it
You
is, sir.
said you did.
As far as I know,
we don't have
there's been no proof
public
that this has
in the
been
work
driven
session.
from the top down. This has all been by two state employees. Adjutant General and Camp Commander, both are state employees.
Because we've inferred the term they. Who are they? Because I know tonight the state of the state is gonna happen, and I'm curious about who's really pushing the needle.
Well, I believe Major General Paul Rogers, Colonel Scott Myers.
Okay,
If I may, I'd say that Mike's comment here about this not being a DOD not made here for the first time. He's made it at a number of public meetings at which Colonel Myers has been present. Myers has not.
that's a big statement in my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? We'll be back at our regular meeting at 10 a.m. Thank you. Ten one, stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Here,
Here,
Approval of the agenda.
so move, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I'm going to be allowed to speak, as I mentioned in my email a week ago last Monday, regarding the opinion is you had mentioned to me that it was going to be handled in unfinished business.
You could bring it up in unfinished business.
Thank you very much.
Any discussion? Clerk, roll call, please. Yes.
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 Oh, thank you. Public comment? Anybody in Zoom land? Eric? Okay.
I wanted to speak.
And we also have, okay. Number 6, administrator.
Chairman?
Yes.
I think he means is the first public comment only for agenda.
Oh, no, it's not. Yes. 5 minutes.
My name is Larry Maduri. I'm a resident of Lyon Township, and I'm also the township supervisor. I want to first thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. I'm speaking about the Camp Grayling expansion. I wanted to just bring up a couple of real quick points. And I've done a lot of homework on this. I've attended a lot of the meetings and I've asked some questions, and you've probably heard a lot of material about this, probably a lot more than you care to, but regardless, it's a very important topic. And I kind of, in Lyon Township, we passed a resolution opposing the, one of the things that I wanted to just discuss were a couple of items that I thought were very important, and it was really around transparency. So when you hear the topic of what's going on with the Camp Grilling expansion, the first words are, we need to do whatever's necessary to support our military. And I don't think anybody around will ever dispute that. That's exactly what we want to do. We always want to support our military. But there's a lot of other things that are in play. And there are two main things that kind of hit home with me. And it was really around transparency. When I attended the meetings, I asked the questions, two questions. One was around the lease agreement. And I asked the question about when the lease agreement is signed, we all know that lease agreements change and they can change at any time. So as a township official, I asked the question, when those lease agreements change, how does the county or the township or the residents made aware of those changes? The terms can change, and as long as both parties are in agreement, then they can make an amendment to the lease agreement and so on. So the answer that was given to me is we don't have to provide that information. You can FOIA the information like you could FOIA anything, but it's not out in front. And if you were to FOIA the information, there's no guarantee that it wouldn't be redacted in some capacity. So that, I think, was really a huge problem for me. The second one was around the fact that in the conversations that there was no money that was exchanging hands, right? So the state and the federal government, because they're both government agencies, that no money would exchange hands. I don't really understand the reasoning why, but I took it for what it was. So I asked the question that kind of hit home, was around, we're going to train them. Camp Grayling is going to charge for that. So how is it that the residents, we the people, benefit from something like that, right? Where exactly, if there's no money exchanging hands, but there will be some form of profit that will be taking place as part of the training exercises, how does that benefit the residents of Michigan? And I asked that question multiple times. I made phone calls and I sent emails, and I never received a response for that. So I think those two big things for me, and then there's a bunch of things, but I have 5 minutes. So those things I think resonated very hard with me. So around transparency, letting people know what's going on, helping people really understand what's going on, I think was two of the biggest things. So my ask, and you can see from the map and from the resolutions that a lot of the surrounding counties, a lot of the surrounding townships have signed resolutions. And this isn't, well, the county should follow suit. It is, these are the reasons why I'm asking you guys as the commissioners to consider filing a resolution because of those reasons alone. I think transparency is very important, and not having that transparency, I think, is very critical for the people. We all use that property to snowmobile or side by side or whatever the case is, and not having that information, I think, made available is a little kind of disheartening. So that's it. Hopefully I made my 5 minutes. I thank you for the time, and I thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Appy, and I'm a Garish Township trustee. And I'm going to piggyback on what Larry was saying in support of the Grayling expansion, of opposing it. All of our townships in our county, except for two, Denton and Nestor, have written resolutions. Garish, we are voting on our resolution by February 12th at our board meeting, or 14th, whatever that Tuesday is. Anyway, so of all the townships, everybody is on board, and am speaking to highly encourage our county to join in this venture of protecting our northern Michigan. We have the Great Lakes, we have lots of rivers, we have fresh water. Take it to a desert or someplace where it's not such an important, valuable asset, especially in the future with climate change and everything else that's going on. We need to take care of our beautiful country here that we have and not have it destroyed any more than what already has happened with the whole PFAS thing in the military camp. So that's my 2 cents, and thank you. I'm encouraging you to do a resolution. Thank you.
Good morning, and in the interest of your time and effort, I oppose the Camp Grayling expansion. The land that they are proposing, while vacant, is used significantly by a lot of our people. I am a Lyon Township resident, and I just want you to know that I am one of your constituents, and I heartily encourage you to propose a resolution and submit that in opposition. Oh, I apologize. My name is John Barta.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kurt Kehoe, and I'm a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel. I have nearly 28 years in the military, and I also oppose the Camp Grayling expansion. I live in Lyon Township. I own property in Markey Township. I own property in South Branch, and I also have a small business in the village of Roscommon. And our communities in the area are driven and thrive on tourism. And with some of the information that I've seen, this vast expansion could negatively impact tourism up here. Could be snowmobiling, hunting, fishing, just recreational activities. I've also seen documented information that indicates that it's a greater want to be able to bring private industry and contractors up here and do training. We know that the PFAS, the firefighting foam, things like that, the military didn't do that on purpose, but they didn't know what the negative impacts would have been from that foam. That's not to say that someone comes up here and does some additional training. They bring some kind of chemicals, equipment, anything like that that could have a negative impact on our soil, in our air, our environment, or to the wildlife. And so as a resident of Lyon Township, I'm asking that you support a resolution that opposes the expansion. Thank you.
My name is Neil Wallace. I know I spoke during the work session, but I wanted to say just a couple of things. When I the first meeting I attended on this was May 31st. And there was a presentation by the Guard at that time. I asked the question, how is this electromagnetic warfare and training not going to interfere with civilian communications? And they said, well, we have this technical device. Now, I got to say, I don't understand it, but it's called geofencing. And at the June 24th meeting, the Guard again said, we've tested this geofencing. We can fence off electronically so that we don't interfere with civilian communications. I then asked the follow-up question then to the Guard was, well, if you have that, why can't you use geographical separation, scheduling, and this geofencing to use the existing 231 square miles that you have? And the answer was, we just can't. It didn't resonate with me at all, and it felt fake or false. The other thing is I urged you during the work session to pass this now because we could get a decision out of Lansing at any time. Mike mentioned to me that somebody said that you have some sort of board rule or whatnot that you can't. Well, let me just say this. I know that you've heard from Mike a number of times already about this. I suspect that the rule is there so that you don't get blindsided by something that's new. I don't think this issue or the background for it is new to any of you. And I would suggest to you that any rule that you have can be readily overcome by you deciding to do this today. Thank you.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. So two things. I know, I believe you're gonna bring up the county directory during the meeting, because I was waiting to have a discussion on that at the work session. But also, I looking for some clarification. Obviously, I don't expect you to respond right now, but something to ponder is some clarification on who is actually responsible for making the changes to your board rules, because I know that you had at the last meeting wanted to have the word unanimous struck from that and have it changed back to majority or whatever it was. So are you looking for your board secretary to make these changes that you guys are making to the board rules? Are you hoping that the clerk's office is going to be making them? We need some clarification on that, because that could have been corrected between the last meeting and this meeting. So that was all I
Right.
had. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And I believe it's the clerk's office that'll make the changes.
Yes, Julie.
Okay,
I think it's easier for Julie because she's here and not taking minutes, and then can email those out, and if anything's missed, you guys can respond directly too.
okay, we'll run with that, and Michelle will have Julie make the changes and make sure you get it in your office.
Thank you. I
Mr. Chair,
figured it
that
was
means we're not
easier.
gonna be voting
for-
on that today? Or passing the rules changes or just?
No.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Push the button.
It's on if it's green.
My name's Martha Barta. I'm a Lyon Township resident, and I just want to reiterate my feelings about the Camp Grayling expansion and my concerns, not only for the residents of Lyon Township, Garish Township, all the counties that are involved in this huge undertaking, but the people, the recreation, the uses of that land and what they're proposing to be the use of that land is very concerning to me, not only for not being able to use the land as the DNR has set aside, but also just for our own health and safety. So I would really encourage and hope that you all will adopt a resolution in opposition of this proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Monty Bolus. I wanted to speak just real quickly on the topic of transparency, and I want to give you a very specific example of how we believe the National Guard hasn't been transparent with us. Citizens come to these meetings as blank slates, and they come trusting that the National Guard and the Department of Natural Resource is going to give it to them straight. I want to give you a very specific, clear example, and I could give you many, of how by withholding information from us, the National Guard has been painting a false picture of how our land and the airspace above it is going to be used. At the second Frederick Township meeting, which you can watch on a YouTube video, I asked Colonel Scott Myers, the commander of Camp Grayling, is it your intent to expand the restricted airspace in this area and bring more noise and pollution and risk of fire into this area? And he said no. And I became frustrated because, again, citizens come as blank slates trusting to get honest information. I said, Colonel Scott Myers, sir, how can you say that when in the strategic plan for Camp Grayling, it specifically says that one of the goals of the Michigan National Guard is to expand the restricted airspace? And his response to me was, Mr. Bolus, we're going to expand it vertically. I said, sir, that's not the whole story. You're going to expand it vertically, but it specifically says you're going to expand it laterally. He said that he's not aware of it. So respectfully, I don't believe that the commander of Camp Grayling was unaware that the Michigan National Guard for the last 3 years has had a plan in the works to expand our restricted airspace. And as a matter of fact, 5 weeks after that Frederick Township meeting, it was announced in the paper that the Michigan National Guard is going to, or is attempting to, expand the restricted airspace over a 13 county area by more than 3,000 square nautical miles. So that's a very clear example of citizens coming to these meetings, expecting transparency and not receiving it. I again want to respectfully urge you to please consider passing a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jim Knight from Bear Lake Township, Kalkaska County. Approximately 3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from a senior aide from Governor Whitmer's office. And he reached out to me and several to Neil and to Monty and to several other groups and of leadership and wanted to know what this opposition was all about. And I proceeded to tell him over the about an hour and a half, just exactly what our points were and how precious this land is to all of us. But during the conversation, this gentleman asked me, he said, well, isn't this just vacant land? And I had to take a second to answer that. So there's a huge disconnect between what is vacant land to them and what we see as precious treasures here, where it has been a grandchild has possibly caught their first fish in the river, or a grandson or their son has shot a turkey and put them on the path of the outdoors. So I just want to reiterate, this is what we're up against. And clearly, as Neil has stated, that the needle is moving because of the opposition. So that map clearly gets the attention all the way to the governor's office. So please join us in this opposition. Thank you.
I have a public comment.
Well, you're a commissioner, so,
I can still make public comment.
okay.
Okay, I agree. I think this is a big land grab. And I oppose it. And it's gonna hurt recreation in our area, as already reiterated. It needs to be stopped. Camp Grayling is already the largest camp in the United States. It needs to be done in a place like Nevada, where it's almost the whole state is owned by the government. There's no reason at all to have it in this kind of an area where all this recreation it takes place, and we have all the water, which is a tremendous resource that is not present in other states. If we ruin our water system here, there would be a big problem.
No doubt. Okay, I don't see no more hands. There's nothing on Zoom, Julie. I don't believe. Let's move to number 6, Administrator Controller's report, please.
Good morning, gentlemen and ma'am. So before I start, I was going to kind of offer a compromise out. If you would like me to draft a letter on behalf of the Board of Commissioners to the appropriate parties, letting them know of this board's intent to send a formal resolution, kind of like an introduction to we oppose, I'd be more than happy to do that for you, because I'm getting the feeling that all of you agree with opposition. So, okay, so then we can comply with your board rules and your wishes. So I will draft that letter up and get that. David, I'll email it out, let you guys read it real quick.
Thank you, Jody.
Welcome. On to my report. So lawsuit updates, Courage versus Roscommon County Treasurer, which is also falls in line with the Fox versus every county in Michigan. There was actually a panel hearing regarding the Fox case on 111. Essentially, it was arguing against the class certification, basically saying you can't have an overall reaching settlement for every property in this because each one's going to be calculated differently. So it could be 3 months as an expedited, or it could be 2 years on an expedited. So we just wait and see on that one as well. Chill versus Roscommon County, last action was on 7/20, and that was with the granting of the motion of MAC and MADC, which is the Drain Commissioners, to file their amicus curiae, basically as knowing people to advise the court, basically, so no change. Ostergen versus Schneider in the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners is still scheduled for oral argument on February 8th. Ostergen versus Schneider et al., there was an offer to stipulate to judgment that was submitted with a deadline of 2/2 to the plaintiff to accept. Ostergen et al. Versus Melvin has had no change. The opiate suit actually is changed. Ottawa County's appeal was denied by the courts, and that means that they may actually be able to get money to us in 2023 to start assisting with those things that we'll be utilizing it for, i.e. transport, and I lost my lieutenant, she was here someplace, transport and the opioid drugs that we utilize in the jail, along with the program through Central Michigan District Health Department. That's a good thing. And then Ostergen versus Board of Canvassers, there has been no movement at the Supreme Court yet. Couple updates on your special assessment projects. We did receive notification of eligibility to bond from the state of Michigan. That has to go through them first and get their blessing. Benzinski and Company Municipal Finance Advisors, which was the gentleman that spoke with Stacy a few meetings ago, will serve as our registered municipal advisor. This is only regarding the Houghton Lake level special assessment. Obviously, nothing else has been set in motion as far as the court yet. So this is the only one it will refer to. I will give you a heads up, total fee could be anywhere up to $10,000 for bonding of this project because the cost will be large. And that will also be included in that special assessment procurement process. Houghton Lake, I sent out an email to you guys in regards to the first agreement, phase 1 with Spicer Group for estimated $240,000. I wanted your input on it because it is a larger monetary amount. Obviously, it's only phase 1 data collection and public opinion, but since it will be our taxpayers' money and our money is going into this, I just want to make sure that everything that's in there is to your liking and to your satisfaction before I sign off on it. A couple of the areas that I had concerns with were also Commissioner Wolfson's concerns, so that worked out really well. The big portions of it was I was a little concerned that they were only budgeting a half an hour, as well as Commissioner Wolfson was as well, for meetings with the public. I thought that that was not long enough. So I had asked them to bump that up to an hour and a half because these things can get contentious and I don't want to get charged at a rate of $270 an hour for lengthy meetings. Basically, I'd like that to be included in there. I did have some concerns as well with a portion when they were looking at, let's see, I wanted to find the one other thing, that basically just they're saying that the phase was intended to gather additional information to better understand the operation of the existing dam and the Houghton Lake watershed and solicit feedback from the public. They are also looking at the Reedsburg Dam and looking at the Muskegon, and I would like that included in the data collection phase 1 title as well. So I didn't know if there was anything else that you guys would like to see or any other questions or concerns that you had. Yes.
Can I ask you directly or do I have to go through the chairman?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. Last meeting, there's a little bit of contentiousness. Okay. Yeah, how much work has this been for you to do on Houghton? I know at one time we were paying you, but I understand that you are no longer accepting any payment for the work on the Houghton Lake, but how many hours do you have to spend on this?
So I guess I don't know. And I just want to clarify, I've never gotten any additional money for being position that the board.
Okay, I didn't understand that from Commissioner
No.
Russo.
That's, it depends. Some weeks it's absolutely nothing. Some weeks it's an additional 2 or 3 hours. So nothing crazy. But yeah, it is additional.
I have a question. Are we gonna accept the part where they own everything they report to us?
So, nope, I was getting to that as well. So there is a section in here as well under their general conditions attached to the letter agreements. And I did talk to our attorneys about this as well, where basically it's the part where everything that they do, compiling the reports and the information for the county of Roscommon, all the stuff leading up to it, that is their intellectual property. I know Commissioner Wolfson had an issue with that. I guess that is standard language, but if you would like me to fight that, I am more than happy to.
My opinion is if we pay for this study, we own the material. If we don't, they even stated in there they wanted the copyright, which means we can't copy it even. If we pay for a service, we own the product. And you didn't, I lost you.
No, the question I have is, if they prepare it for us, it is our
It's
material.
ours.
You just can't
Yeah, but
give
that's
it to
not what
another
the
county.
contract reads.
I'm sorry?
That's not what the contract reads. That's what I'm saying.
Interesting.
We'll check.
In regard to what Jody mentioned earlier, that her signature would be affixed to the document, I think it would be prudent for us to also sign our signatures. I think it's too much, it's asking too much for Jody to be the sole signature on this document. I think at least you and I, as the chairman and vice chairman respectively, should affix our signature to have authenticity and validity. My thoughts, Mr. Chair.
Well, I like that part, but let's do some checking into that other part,
Okay.
Jody.
I will do that.
Thank you.
In regards to Lake St. Helen, there is the continued assessment of parcels ongoing. Turns out that the bridge that is of concern is actually privately owned by a subdivision. So this will be interesting for them. In regards to Higgins Lake, on January 12th, 2023, Crawford County did approve the resolution naming the Roscommon County Administrator Controller as the delegated authority for Higgins Lake. So Stacy had made that presentation with Controller Campo up there as well. Legislative update, the state government's revenues have actually soared, interestingly enough. So their general fund is expected to stay near or above $15 billion through at least fiscal year 2025, based on their own calculations. Within the last 5 years, they were sitting at just over $8 billion. The troubling part of that for local municipalities and governments is they have not looked at putting any of this additional funding into increasing the shared revenues that they have shorted us for the last 20 years. So this is something that our local representatives need to stress to any of our state representatives as well, that they need to look at taking that exceeding amount that they have received from the federal government and passing that down to the counties and your townships, cities, and villages. Daily work, sent a letter out to terminate the lease with Catholic Human Services. I have completed the lease agreement and will review that with the director from Northern Michigan Children's Assessment Center. That's looking at a March 31st move out date by Catholic Human Services. What's in question for that is what we're going to do with our juvenile holdover room, but we have a couple of ideas and we're going to brainstorm on that as well. I have completed our quarterly grant reimbursement reports for the indigent defense. We also have the letters of understandings for our 3 unions in regards to accepting Juneteenth as a paid holiday. Those have been completed and brought back into the offices. Just so you're aware where we are with some of our staffing, and sorry, Vance, our 911 center is on their cyclical downside again for staffing. He's nodding in agreement. E911 is a particularly hard position for people to stay on. A lot of multitasking, but we are down to 6 and 1 part-time. So if you know anyone who would like to make a career out of that, that would be wonderful. We are also looking for competent sheriff deputies as well to come on board. So a couple different projects that are going on. Bill's busy back there. I'm making him earn his keep. The biggest one is a moisture mitigation project that is happening at the animal shelter. Bill has that well under control, but there will be some replacement looking at having to probably change some of the drywall that's in there to maybe a more appropriate type of green board that wasn't put in there for moisture. So there's some different issues there that will be coming about as well. He is also working with bids for our parking lot paving that is budgeted for this year across the street. Now, mind you, I'm going to guess that that's going to be ground up and totally redone because it is absolutely horrendous across the street. So that's kind of one of the bigger things. And then Chairman, you'll be excited about this. He has the doors ordered for replacement doors in the airport buildings for those steel doors. So then the fire chief won't yell at us about fire hazards and things will be better. I do have the soil erosion position help wanted ads that have gone out into the paper. They are posted on the website, and I did email it to every single employee that we have. I've had a couple employees actually reach out to me who would be interested in doing that, maybe on a contract basis. And we will see if we get anybody throughout the community as well. And then I'll have to probably have a member of personnel, and then I would say Commissioner Wolfson, since he's in that position, to sit in on interviews for that as well. So I am currently working with Genesee County on 2 new unclaimed bodies. It is amazing when people have 9 relatives on Facebook that nobody responds to letters, emails, Facebook messages, or phone calls to claim someone. I am currently receiving the quarterly ARP grant recipient reports, and we'll put together a brief update for you at the first February meeting in regards to where those projects stands. We are starting the process of 1099s and W-2s this week. Couple more things. Gypsy Moth is finalizing their recommendations for spray box, and we will be scheduling a committee meeting in the next few weeks. Ideally, just so what happens is we have that pot of money that we have, and our Lyon Township supervisors here, and our Garrish Township trustee is here as well. So this year we have $85,000 to spray with. The good news is that there aren't a lot of areas that have been found that would be considered to fall into the state and criteria for spray blocks. The bad news is $85,000 when everything doubled last year for the cost of spraying isn't a lot of money. So we will be going back out again, sending those requests to the townships and to individuals that if they would like to pay to be included in spray box or added on, that will be a possibility again. We will also reach back out to the state of Michigan and have them hopefully spray like they did last year. They did both state parks and then did the highway areas as well. So those are very helpful because you have areas, Lyon Township is horrific. You've got that stretch on Old 27 where it's all Crawford County across, those beautiful woods that those spongy, moths love to eat. So you can spray all you want in Garrish Township, but nobody tells the spongy moths they can't cross the borders. So we're trying to figure out that futility of that. So the very last thing is that we did receive notification from MERS, which is our Municipal Employers Retirement System, that the IRS has ruled that employee transfers between divisions, if the division is closed, are not allowed. This is in regards to our defined benefit portions of this. Since this is actually a provision we have had on our plan and in our union contracts, MERS has come up with a policy that basically says that they will be enrolled in the same plan type, the closest same plan type. I have made our regional representatives aware for our unions as well. That's it.
Thank you, Jody.
I have some questions.
I was just gonna ask that.
Yes, you mentioned that Crawford County has agreed and passed a resolution regarding. Well, that's news to me. I talked to Lori Jameson yesterday, the chairwoman up there, and she didn't know anything. I'm going to be going there and speaking as a private individual, and I would like to see that resolution. Have they named you as the delegated authority yet? They have named you as
I have a
delegated?
copy of a signed resolution from Stacy that she sent me
Really? No kidding.
with Lori Jameson's name
And the
on it.
board, really? Okay, she didn't seem to know anything about it. That's interesting. Okay.
Any other questions for the county controller? Okay, we're gonna move down to correspondence. A is Michigan Association of Counties. B is Branch County. C is MSUE. D is Michigan Association of Counties. E is an email received. F is an email received. G is Brimmer's letters received.
Mr. Chair, I would like to address two of the pieces of correspondence.
Okay,
Yes, from one of my constituents, Steve Ricketts. I'd like to read this into the record because I don't even know if anybody's read this. It goes on, Commissioners, I watched with interest the Board of Commissioners, January 11th, 2003 work session. During that meeting, Bill Sullivan, your Higgins Lake LLCS maintenance person, provided you with a 3-year LLCS report. He stated he's not an expert nor an engineer. After his report, he was then asked for questions from the board, and Commissioner Ostergren was the only board member to ask any. Commissioner Ostergren referred to the December 14th, 2010 Spicer Group report, which mentioned scouring and was observed in the 4.75 foot spillway of the LLCS. The Spicer Group are experts and engineers in their field. Our commissioners must believe in them, or the Spicer Group wouldn't continue to be working for the county on the 3 county lakes, new special assessment district activities. This board received expert opinions and recommendations of operating the dam to better maintain the legal levels and of the repairs needed to the Higgins Lake LLCS. Mr. Ostergren also suggested that the entire Board of Commissioners visit the LLCS firsthand. There are several new members on the board. I totally agree. Quite a few years back, the entire previous board did just that. That visit was also open to the public due to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act and the fact that you had to encroach on private property to visit the LLCS. I was there that day, and it was a very interesting visit. I hope this new board will do the same when weather permits. I've been a property owner on Higgins Lake since 1987 and have lived permanently there since 2003. As far as my memory goes, and that of my many neighbors and friends around the lake, before the LLCS was modified in 2007, we never had issues maintaining the lake levels. Since 2007, we've had nothing but issues. That's the reason back in 2010, the previous board, at great expense to the county and taxpayers, hired the Spicer Group for their expertise and their recommendations on operating and maintaining our LLCS. I don't believe any of the recommendations have been enacted. This past summer and fall, I believe, was the worst lake levels I've ever seen on our lake. The lake level never reached the court-ordered legal summer level, and it went below the maximum legal winter drawdown. Please see the attached charts of the lake levels on Higgins for portions of the past year. 2022, the court-ordered summer level was neither achieved nor maintained at the legal level of 5.37 foot gauge height. Additionally, the legal maximum level of 8.47 gauge height was violated from mid-September through the end of the year. My hope is that this year we will finally consider and adopt the entirety of the Spicer Group's 2010's recommendations and the maintenance of the LLCS for the benefit of everyone who lives or recreates on Higgins Lake. I hope you will repair the scouring of the 4.75 spillway before it leads to more expensive repairs down the road. I believe that repair specifically would be within your $10,000 yearly budget for needed repairs. I wonder, last sentence he said in this is, I wonder how this year's lack of snowfall will affect this year's lake level. That's the first piece of correspondence. And as a follow-up, he sent a letter or an email a while later. This is a follow-up letter to the previous email I sent the board this past week. It is intended specifically for the new members of your board, as well as for Controller Valentino, who is the recently appointed delegated authority over the control and operation of the LLCSs for the 3 lakes in the county. I don't know how knowledgeable these individuals are of the past history regarding the apparent difficulty in maintaining the legal levels of Higgins Lake. I'll do my best to give an accurate information as I know it. 1, in 1926, the court established the legal lake level on Higgins Lake. In 1982, the court affirmed this level and added a legal winter level. From that time up until the mid-2000 timeframe, there have been several structures installed in the entrance of the Cut River to restrict / control the outflow of water from Higgins Lake to maintain the lake levels. In 2007, the LLCS was modified to its current configuration, which included a DNR mandated unregulated spillway. Sometime shortly after the last LLCS iteration, the prior Board of Commissioners started receiving complaints of the LLCS not being able to maintain the court-ordered legal summer level. In early 2010, the Board of Commissioners hired Spicer Group to do a thorough study of both the operation of the LLCS and the integrity of the structure itself. The Spicer Group are considered experts in their field. On December 14, 2010, the Board of Commissioners received a report from the Spicer Group with their expert opinion of the structure and on the operation of it that would result in a better maintaining the legal levels. The report cost us taxpayers many thousands of dollars. Since receiving that valuable information back in 2010, 13 years ago, the Board of Commissioners have done absolutely nothing with the expert opinions for which we as taxpayers paid. Many public comments and requests were given at past commissioners meetings regarding the improperly maintained lake levels and included repeated questions to the commissioners as to why the Spicer Group recommendations for operating and maintaining the LLCS were never adopted. No answers to this question were ever provided. So here we are today. I've been told that the dam spillway is needed to support walleye production for Houghton Lake. The previous LLCSs never had a spillway. Question: how did the walleye survive prior to 2007 when the spillway never existed? The Houghton Lake walleye only spawn for a short time in the spring. Therefore, why can't an adjustable restrictor plate be placed in the spillway and operated only during walleye spawning times? I believe this would constitute a reasonable compromise that would help better maintain the legal level. Please see the attached surveys that were presented to the past Board of Commissioners for their consideration before any of this ongoing litigation was started. What a waste of money this litigation has been for all involved, including myself as one of the litigants. As you can see from these surveys, well over 600 Higgins Lake users completed them. Also, the HLPLA, who represents over 500 Higgins Lake riparian owners, passed a resolution on October 15, 2018 in support of incorporating all the recommendations contained in the 2010 Spicer report and presented their resolution at a regular 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting. Then again, this past year, the same resolution was read a second time by the HLPLA at a Board of Commissioners meeting. Isn't it time something be done with the Higgins Lake LLCS to better maintain the legal levels? After all, isn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Thank you, Steve Ricketts. Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to monthly department reports. A, December 2022 sheriffs. B, December 2022 jail. Number 9 is visitors. We have any visitors that need to be recognized? Number 10, unfinished business, new business.
I have some unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Okay. Everybody's gonna get tired of hearing me read this, but it is the opinion of counsel subject to attorney-client privilege, which I have waived. I passed out a copy to everyone, and I'm gonna read that into the record. Dear Eric, you have asked for my opinion regarding 2 topics. First, you asked my opinion about the appointment of a delegated authority under Part 307 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. Second, you asked about any potential conflicts of interest. You have given you a nonprofit and several local property owners have commenced a lawsuit against Roscommon County regarding its inland lake levels on Higgins Lake. Delegated authority. As you well know, Michigan has a law that allows local courts to establish a legal level of inland lakes. One such lake is Higgins Lake. As far back as the 1920s, Higgins Lake has been subject to such oversight and control. The most recent controlling order is from 1982, where the circuit court and not Roscommon County established the proper legal level is 1,154.11 feet above mean sea level for the summer months and a 6-inch water reduction. And statutes quoted there. The court shall determine the normal level to be established and maintained shall have continuing jurisdiction. To carry out the court's determination, the Michigan legislature has assigned the task of complying with the circuit court's determination to each respective county by and through its delegated authority. The default delegated authority is the drain commissioner, and there's a statute quoted. However, the county may appoint another person designated by the county board to perform duties required under this part. And another statute is cited. From public records, the outgoing 2022 term Board of Commissioners, without any real public announcement, appointed the county controller, Jody Valentino, during the very last meeting in December of 2022. This is a common but controversial practice known as a lame duck action. It's when individuals are serving in their final elected capacity and are not returning, who will attempt to make drastic, non-publicized legal changes in the hopes of binding a future board containing newly elected officials. In my opinion, it is a violation of their public responsibility, but it is a practice long utilized, but a customary practice does not make it a right one. That said, it is clear that the prior board lame ducked the appointment of Ms. Valentino by wrapping the appointment into the proposed Higgins Lake assessment resolution. As such, she is, until acted upon otherwise, the proposed delegated authority for Higgins Lake. The reason why she is only proposed is because Higgins Lake is a 2-county lake. From the public records I have reviewed, Ms. Valentino was appointed, albeit in a lame duck session, by only Roscommon County. Crawford County still needs to confirm her appointment. As such, in my opinion, the delegated authority remains the drain commissioner. Finally, it is worthy to note that the ultimate responsibility for compliance with the 1982 legal lake level order rests with Roscommon County. And then our case is quoted, and then he says, any continued violation of the same likely subjects the county to possible civil liability. Conflict of interest. Second, you also asked me about the potential for conflict. This area of law is highly undeveloped. Conflicts of interest exist when a single person has a divided loyalty to separate sides of a transaction or circumstance. It is most often something attorneys deal with because our Michigan rules of professional conduct are strict about not having any or even the potential for conflicts of interest. However, the Michigan rules of professional conduct are only applicable to attorneys and not non-lawyer elected officials. However, it is also critical to note that having differing interests does not mean such are in conflict. Take, for example, a citizen who sues the state of Michigan. Having sued the state does not disqualify the citizen from voting or electioneering activities for candidates who would support his or her position in the lawsuit. Another example is that a creditor can be named the personal representative of a probate estate, even though it would personally benefit them from the exercise of professional judgment. While there are separate interests at play, they do not necessarily conflict. Here, you ran for election on a platform that included the water levels of Higgins Lake. It was widely publicized that you were spearheading the citizens' lawsuit, and you have a publicly known position that Roscommon County is violating their legal duties under the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. As such, the electorate has nevertheless opted to appoint you to this post with sufficient public knowledge of your position. The mere fact that you have a viewpoint that is different than past boards or current officials does not raise a conflict of interest. Moreover, I see no reason in the law that prevents you, an elected official, from participating in deliberations and votes about the water level of Higgins Lake, ideas to improve or change the control structure and the special assessment district. Closely related, any attempt by the board to have the judiciary intervene would likely face a strong constitutional roadblock. In Michigan, we have a separation of powers. A circuit court likely cannot direct how or in what circumstances a public official elected to the legislative branch of government conducts the legislative or representative process. I'm not aware of any rules that direct that a county legislative official, like a commissioner, must refrain from representing their constituents on the basis of a potential conflict of interest. And then there's a subnote down number 1, and it says, a common mistake that many make is that the standards of conduct for public officials and employee act somehow applies. However, this act only applies to those defined as public officials and employees. Employee means under the act means an employee classified or unclassified or the executive branch of the state, while a public officer means a person appointed by the governor or another executive department official. In other words, the act only applies to state officials, not county. While, in my opinion, you have the right to participate, the closer question is whether you can participate in deliberations about trial strategy of the pending lawsuit captioned as Citizens for Higgins Lake v. Roscommon County. While there does not appear to be any specific statute or precedent that absolutely precludes you from your participation, it is generally understood that a person cannot be on both sides of a lawsuit. But as the lawsuit is formulated, your position is not in conflict. As I understand it, both your role as county commissioner and separately as a private citizen, you assert that the county must comply with the requirements of the 1982 Circuit Court order establishing the lake levels. If others within Roscommon County government wish to take an adverse position, they do not have to recuse themselves from their public duties, and neither do you. However, my recommendation is a split the baby approach. You have been elected and owe good faith, honest services, and full faith responsibilities to your constituents, even in the face of your assertion that others that may serve the local government would take a view that is illegal or improper. Your advocacy for the board members to alter their position is not a conflict of interest. However, if the board wishes to discuss specific legal strategy for the pending lawsuit, I would recommend recusing yourself slowly as to that purpose. This would, in my opinion, balance the obligation you have to the electorate that selected you to represent their interests, while at the same time respect that if the board is going to continue to take a position adverse to the standards and ideas you ran on in the election, while providing sufficient breathing room to permit robust debate while respecting any other attorney-client privilege, so to not cause an unfair advantage regarding your responsibility for different groups. In short, you did not shed your rights as a citizen and an elected official simply because others in the local government would take a different position than you would. Advocating to get others to change their mind is the heart of American democracy.
Thank you. Is there any other unfinished?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd also like to follow up on the comments of that legal opinion. Is that all right?
Yes.
Thank you. We live in a representative republic, and I appreciate the opportunity for equal time that Stacy had a couple weeks ago. It just doesn't make sense to me regarding Stacy Helson's opinion, and I'm glad I had my attorney review it. It appears that her opinion wasn't the most accurate and sought to take my rights and the voters' rights away in District 2. I was elected to be a commissioner of District 2 to represent the people there. I won the election in large part because of my promise to obey the lake level court order and work towards maintaining the legal levels on Higgins Lake, which have always been controlled by the commissioner in District 2. I also want to do many other things in Roscommon, as I outlined in my statement I made on January 3rd, the day I was sworn in, but we need to get past this critical issue of who is managing Higgins Lake. I also want to work with all the commissioners here, and I have a lot to contribute, but like I said, we need to get past this critical issue. What is very important to remember is that the entire board is responsible for maintaining the lake level properly. It is not just the person managing the levels, even though they may be the one that is negligent. like Commissioner Melvin was. I truly believed that all of us had come to an understanding as to who was going to be managing Higgins Lake in our first meeting. Higgins was assigned to me as indicated on the worksheets we developed, and as I still, and is still posted in the original agenda on our website. It now appears that assigning the responsibilities for maintaining all three of our lakes in Roscommon was given to an unelected county employee in the final lame duck session of 2022. It looks like two of our current board members did not realize that fact when they agreed to grant me the authority to manage Higgins. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given me that assignment. I feel totally betrayed when I discovered that, and I was tricked into believing I would be handling Higgins. Now, according to the legal opinion I received from my attorney, the controller is only the proposed delegated authority of Higgins Lake. Apparently that has changed, and I'm going to check into that tomorrow. As she has not been appointed as such from Crawford County. This is a prepared statement, of course. She may have been legally and fully assigned to be the delegated authority on Houghton and Lake St. Helena in the last meeting in 2022, but I don't believe she has the authority to be the delegated authority on Higgins. It appears that that authority was assumed a bit prematurely. It also appears that there was some political trickery taking place in the last meeting of 2022 as Chairman Snyder's votes contradicted his desire to have the lakes managed by an elected official instead of having the lakes managed by the county commissioner, as has been traditionally done. In his final statements as he left office, he stated that he wanted the lakes managed by the drain commissioner because they were an elected official, but he ignored the fact that the commissioners who have always managed the lakes here in Roscommon are also elected officials. In making that statement, he ignored the fact that the county commissioners are much closer to the taxpayers in their particular districts and the lakes they manage than a drain commissioner could ever be. Then, during that same meeting, he voted to turn over all the lakes management to our controller, an unelected employee who doesn't answer to the voters. It is incredible to me that how he could reconcile this contradiction in his thought process. Where does the conflict of interest really exist? Do I have a conflict of interest because I want to obey the court order? No, I don't, as my attorney's opinion indicated. Or should the legal levels be managed by an unelected employee who has publicly stated that she wants to lower the legal levels on Higgins? I'm
Commissioner
going to,
Ostergen, you are now slandering me, and I would like you to stop.
not slandering you.
Absolutely, you are, sir.
No, I am reporting the facts as reported
No,
in the.
sir,
as
you are not reporting the facts. I believe that we had a conversation with Commissioner Wolfson after the last meeting.
Yes.
In which you were informed of quite a different point of view of mine, were you not?
No. It's a public.
Commissioner Wolfson.
I would like, at this point in time, I'd like to pass out, first of all, she's interrupting my comments and I object to that. And I will pass out have it right here somewhere. Here it is. All the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask for maybe a pause in the meeting so I can hit the restroom? It might be an opportunity.
Granted. Come back at. Question.
Thank you. Can I continue? I'd like to state for the record that it is not slander to point out someone's opposing point of view, whether it be changing the legal lake levels, lowering the legal lake levels, or raising the legal lake levels. It's not slander to point out someone's opposing point of view. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to continue on. What she said in the article was, and I'm going to quote, Valentino called the next possible step a little bit more political, which is exactly my point. She,
have to be very sensitive to the fact that I have the highest regard for Valentino's. I would ask Mr. Valentino to very quickly walk through this, not for Ms. Valentino.
I agree. I think she does also. We just have opposing points of view regarding the lake
Tread
levels.
lightly, Mr. Ostergen.
Yes, I will. Okay. Anyway, I'm just quoting out of the paper. Okay. Valentino called the next possible step a little bit more political. She said because 1982 was a long time ago, and based on the concerns, questions, and comments regarding the current levels, she said another step could be for the commissioners to reevaluate the lake level. I would think that you could consider opening up an actual reevaluation of the lake level on Higgins Lake, Valentino said. I'm certain our controller doesn't want the levels higher, and neither did anyone in the court case. They wanted them all lowered. That is what I was referring to. This indicates a bias exists with our controller and turning over the responsibility of working with Eagle, the DNR, and whoever is going to build the new dam, and is not in the best interest of the citizens of Garish and Higgins Township, nor the citizens of Roscommon in the state of Michigan. Earlier this week, I went over the letter from the Spicer Group dated January 6, 2023 to our controller regarding Houghton Lake and the work that needs to be done there. And it certainly looks like a lot of work. I understand that she is no longer being paid for. I thought Mr. Russo had told me that she was, but is no longer accepting that. And I congratulate her on offering her services at no expense to the county. In a short meeting I had with the controller and Commissioner Wilson in our last meeting, the controller told me that she really didn't want to do all the extra work, but volunteered to do so because the previous commission asked her to do so. I don't think it's fair that this commission asked her to do so, but it's a lot of work that takes away from her normal duties. Additionally, I don't understand what the hurry is for Higgins. I think it's way too much to ask our controller to do all this extra work with 3 lakes at the same time, especially since the Higgins Lake control structure is in no need of immediate replacement, just minor repairs. Going through the special assessment district process is time consuming and labor intensive and very expensive, which we can really can't afford right now. Our control, as we saw by the report on Houghton. Our controller can certainly make much better use of her time than handling another major project when she's already working on Houghton and Lake St. Helen. We should put off the Higgins Lake project until we are in better financial position to do so, and also be able to pay our controller extra for doing so much extra work as we originally were in handling Houghton. I understand that pay was given up for her because of recent budgets. That's what David told me, and I now understand that's not true. Taking on projects one at a time certainly makes more sense and will save us money. Also, the duties should be divided and the lake level should be managed as traditionally done by our commissioners, and while our controller could handle the administrative duties when the time comes after we hear back from the Supreme Court, which is another reason for putting this off. The litigation involving Higgins is not yet completed, and who knows what the court's going to require us to do. They could end up requiring something completely different than what Spicer came up with. We should put off moving forward with the Higgins Lake Special Assessment District project until we hear back from the Supreme Court. Doing a lot of work now could cost us a lot of money we don't have. We should know in a couple of months if the Supreme Court is going to take up the case. And if they decide not to take it up, it will be returned to our local courts and we can go from there. If they decide to take it up, it will take a couple of years at least for them to come up with a decision. In the meantime, we should wait until then to do anything on Higgins except repair a damaged lake level control structure. As outlined in my attorney's opinion, a common mistake many make is that the standards for conduct for public officials and employee act somehow applies. However, this act only applies to those defined as public officials and employees. Employee means under the act means an employee classified or unclassified of the executive branch of the state, while a public officer means a person appointed by the governor or another executive department official. In other words, the act only applies to state officials and not county. Getting the law wrong often happens when an attorney is rushed, as happened in the case with Stacy Hassan. She simply is wrong about me having a conflict of interest. That being said, I will not participate in discussions with the current litigation I have against this county. But I do have a conflict of interest in managing the lake levels but I do not have a conflict of interest in managing the lake levels according to the statutes or the court order. Mr. Chair, based on what we've heard here today regarding my so-called conflict of interest, I want this board to entertain a motion to repeal Resolution 22-1203 and return the management of Higgins to its rightful manager as previously appointed until we hear back from the Supreme Court. However, I would like to table that motion until this board has an opportunity to review both legal opinions with the Michigan Association of Counties. Since I just received the legal opinion from my attorney late yesterday, I was planning on doing that anyway. Needs to be looked at more thoroughly, and the Michigan Association of Counties need to take a look. It's not an issue that can be handled by the courts. It has to be handled because of separation of powers. Also, I intend to withdraw my name in this case currently before the Supreme Court, and I'll be doing that shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other unfinished?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to briefly talk about our,
Or discussion?
oh, I'm sorry.
Is that your comment?
You hear that one? But I have a comment.
Okay.
The document you handed us is only stating that she's pointing out an option.
Mhm.
It is not stating her position on it.
I'm sorry, Rex, that's your opinion. I understand.
Okay.
I don't even go to law school and I can read
Well,
it and understand it.
Everybody knows.
Okay.
Everybody knows what the opinion was.
Unfinished business. Now we could go on.
Thank you, Commissioner Russo. So I just wanted to talk on the county directory, and Clerk Stevenson is on Zoom. So if you have any questions, certainly she could be available to answer them. It is time to reprint the directories. In the past, it's been done in-house utilizing the IT department and the clerk/register of deeds office. IT is not available to print, so we need to consider outsourcing the printing of the directories. It was suggested 2 years ago to discontinue the printing of the directory, but continue to provide it electronically on the website. The directory is available on the website and is able to be updated with changes as soon as we're notified, allowing us to have a more current document. Since funding is low, Clerk Stevenson suggested that we utilize the online directory. Organizations that are interested in having a printed copy can print it themselves from the website. The cost to print is not only expensive, there is also the expense of postage with mailing the directories out to the various agencies that we provide them to, and that postage has now gone up.
Thank you. Is there any other unfinished or new business?
I have a comment in response to a comment that was made in the resorter last week. First of all, I'd like to state that I do not feel that any of us are above the law. And as elected officials, we need to lead by example and set a higher standard. And that is just my opinion.
Thank you. Is there any? Yes. Is your mic on?
Mr. Osterman made a comment that I've got immunity when he filed a report. There is nothing they can do about it because I'm a commissioner. I don't think we fall under that category. Just wanted that to be pointed out. It's important to realize, as Darlene just pointed out, we're not above the law, and I don't think we would grant it immunity if we make a bad decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
And
you.
also, too, just for a couple clarifications, Eric just mentioned he wants to table it. You mean table or postpone? Table means we bring it back today. Postpone, we brings it back in the future.
Oh, I'd like to bring it back in the future. Thank you for helping
Okay,
me out
and
on
also
that.
too, on public comment, Mr. Chair, we are not the public. Mr. Ostergen later talked, say he was public. We are commissioners. We listen to the public. That's our job. We don't necessarily respond unless the chair dictates that as an opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I apologize because I've seen that done before by our
Again,
commissioners.
I just want a point of clarification, so we're in the place, we do this the right way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other unfinished or new business from the commissioners? I'll move to go to number 11, motions and resolutions. Clerk.
Motion one, move to appoint the following Roscommon County employees to the Wage and Salary Committee for the calendar fiscal year 2023. Noel Martin, Human Resources, Heather Pratt, Clerk, Aaron Grace, Corrections, Nathan Droptiny, Road Patrol, Michael Edwards, Prosecutor's Office, Allison Thompson, Equalization, Heather Balcom, Register of Deeds, and Vanessa Varner, Emergency Management.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Discussion? Clerk, can you please call roll?
Ostergren,
Here.
No, yes or no?
Yes or no? Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Wolfson, Milburn,
Yes.
motion carried.
Motion number 2, please.
Move to reappoint Jody Valentino in position of Administrator Controller for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2024.
I'll make that motion. Discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Milburn,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Present.
Yes or no?
No.
Wolfson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Number 3.
Motion 3, move to reappoint Bill Leeson as the Airport Advisory Committee for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2024.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Discussion?
Quality candidate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Milburn,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Number 4, please.
Number 4, motion to move to appoint Mark Outner to the Airport Advisory Committee for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2024.
I'll make that motion. Discussion? Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Milburn,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
and motion carried.
Number 12, committee reports. Rex, would you like to start?
Yes, I had a Zoom meeting with MSU. It's interesting to note that Lindsay from MSU is starting a nutritional program with Rock County. And also it was pointed out during our meeting that in the 7 counties that our district comprises, 2,000 people participated in 4-H programs. And I also had a meeting with Vanessa from Emergency Management, and we just went over some general things.
Darlene?
Last night I had the Hope Lake Improvement Board meeting. Lots of interesting stuff regarding the lake, so.
Mark?
COA, and I went to the United Way event the other day. Darlene and I will meet tonight at District Health, and we have economic development tomorrow morning. And I'm heading down to Lansing to do some work down there, but has nothing to do in regard to what we're discussing today. I would like to point out a point of consideration. The gentleman came from Camp Grayling. They seem very insistent on getting this passed. The chairman does have an option. I'd like to point out the options to the chairman and to the board. We could have a special meeting as early as tomorrow, just in regard to this one particular topic. Otherwise, we would normally wait 2 weeks.
I told him we would send a letter out and then we'll vote on it in 2 weeks. He was okay with that.
Your leisure, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out the option. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Eric?
I have none.
And I attended agenda meeting. That's all I have. Public comment. Is there any public comment out there? Is there anything in Zoom land?
Oh, I do have one quick one. I want a little attaboy, not public comment. I was trying to went back. I want to thank the sheriff's department. I'm breaking my rules. I had a little piece of paper here. Two deputies should be thanked for their assistance. They came out to my house the other day. There was an issue in my community, in my little neighborhood. I had their note. Oh, here they are, Deputy Walters and Deputy Briggs. I'd like to shout out to the police department for their concern in our area. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Number 14, adjournment.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.